You're listening to 50 Laps My Way with Tony Mrakovich and Spotter Brian. How's it
Uh,
going, guys?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How about you, Spotter Brian?
Hello, everybody. Doing well. Doing well.
Glad you all could tune in here to episode 2. It's been a minute, but coming back here to kind of highlight the last couple months and what's been going on here with TMR and the NASCAR Truck Series. So, guess we'll start out with a lot of you guys know we ran the race at Texas Motor Speedway last week in the Gander Truck Series, and we actually ran for Joe Nemechek in the number 8 for Nemco Motorsports, and a lot of people don't know the details of that, and it was definitely a last-minute deal. We came into it, I think, the Monday before the race. He talked to Dad, and we weren't really too sure of it. I never ran Texas before, a mile and a half, but we said, sure, why not? And it was going pretty well. Couldn't have Spotter Brian, though. Spotter
Yeah,
Brian
I was a little
couldn't make
upset about losing my driver for a race, but
Yeah.
I got over it. Understood the ins and outs.
it.
I was spotting you from afar.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we missed you there. It was a fun time. I mean, a lot of people don't know that it was such a late deal, and really Joe was only trying to find somebody to help keep his truck in the points. The point system we have now is extremely crucial to be in the top 26 in owners points. So his son John Hunter was over running the Xfinity race at Michigan. Couldn't race for him, so we got the chance to do it, and so we really didn't have the needed funding and the sponsorship to run a full competitive program for the weekend. We had a decent amount of tires, but at the end of the night, that's what we were missing, and the necessary pit crew to give us that set of tires. So we kind of knew at some point during the night we'd probably have to park the truck, but Joe parked his number 87 right after stage 1, and he was nice enough to let me run to the end of stage 2 and see what we could do and try to give ourselves a chance to get near the front. And so it was a really fun time, but yeah, at the end of the night we ran out of tires and had to park it. But
Probably just in time, too, by the way they were wrecking them up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there were like 11 cautions, not
Mhm.
including stage cautions.
I know. Yeah, it was a record-breaking night. I know that's for sure. Um, but it was really fun. I mean, learned a lot, and finally got to feel the side draft a little bit, and that's extremely crucial there. How aero sensitive these trucks are, especially with somebody on your right rear in any of the corners. I mean, extremely fast track, and with the reconfiguration there a couple years ago, it's thrown a lot of people off, and um, biggest thing was having IndyCar there. I mean, and they didn't put any of the VHT down, so the tires felt a lot different for the guys who at least been there before. Obviously, I didn't know what that felt like, so I guess
Sure.
that was a little advantage for me, but not really having any specific mindset. But we ran all of our practice sessions and with no Indy rubber, no Indy cars had track time, and then they did all their practice right before the race. So you spend all these hours tuning on the thing, and then you go out for the race, and you got miles and miles of, Indy's Firestone rubber on the racetrack, and it threw a lot of people for a hoop. That's why we had so many single car incidents. But
What did it feel like driving a fast truck?
it felt good. It felt really good. It was it's hard not wanting to take advantage of it and try to run the whole race. I mean, I knew what the plan was before the race, but once I was out there, I was begging for tires, and we were talking to other teams about working stuff out, and especially with some of them that were kind of falling out of the race. But a lot of people don't understand in the middle of the race like that, it's in the heat of the moment. It's so hard to crack some deals and get a break, to be able to get those tires without the proper sponsorship and preparation and stuff like that. But that thing definitely has the speed right off the truck, that's for sure. And it was interesting. Daytona obviously felt extremely fast. It's, wide open there, almost 190 miles an hour. but you have 2.5 miles to do it. Whereas Texas, you have 1.5 miles, and you're only going like 4 or 5 miles an hour slower.
Yeah.
So it feels very much faster than Pocono or Daytona for sure. So really, really fun.
Now I heard a little story from your crew chief down there, and he was commenting on Tony's calmness and prior to the race and in the truck.
Yeah.
And he said you were calmer than he said that boy's calmer than Joe.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. How do you stay calm in the truck, man?
I think he jinxed me that night because I eventually lost it a little bit, but I don't know. Joe did he did just a really good job in the driver's meeting. We sat together and just kind of coaching me, and when you know that your night might end prematurely, you know that it's kind of, well, we're just gonna go out and everybody's telling me just to ride. Don't try to prove anything. Don't. And obviously, once you sit in the thing, that all goes out the window.
Yeah, you want to prove something. I'm here to win a race, man.
So I think my mentality was just calm before the race, really just not going to go out and hammer it down. And then the second I got in, it all changed. And so it made me look good before the race. But once we got out there, we had a couple incidents that were really didn't hurt us at all. But they were unnecessary. They didn't have to happen. And so it did get under my skin a little bit. We almost had a bit of a jet dryer incident. And this is where the TV doesn't catch. But we a couple of jet dryers pulled out in front of me and Johnny Sauter on the backstretch, and nothing happened. We just had to make some quick movements. But quick movements around other race cars is one thing, but when you have people on the racetrack, that's never something you want to run across.
What happened when Tyler Ankrum in the 17 came spinning down pit road? They didn't throw the caution.
Oh yeah, that was the more frustrating part. We had we were kind of in the back, so we saw that happening. Johnny Sauter just got in his wreck, so he was right behind me, and I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive I saw the yellow flag actually waved. And I usually never even look in the flag stand, just can't see it. But it's pretty clear. I mean, anytime somebody spins, usually anywhere, it's a caution. There is a rule where they end up off the racing surface. There won't be, but pit road's usually included in the racing surface. And me and Johnny Sauter and another truck lifted, and we stayed out of it from turn 4 the whole way into the middle of turn 1 and 2. And then my spotter told me that yellow was out. And meanwhile, everybody in front of us is leaving. They're not leaving us like they're full throttle, but they're still kind of going. And so everybody's kind of confused on whether the caution actually came out or not.
Were the lights on?
They weren't.
Because that's, I mean, to be truthful, that's what I look at.
Exactly.
Because you always can't see the flag stand because there's always something in the way.
Yeah.
Even from the spotter stand, it's usually the fence is obstructing the view of the actual flag stand.
Yeah.
So I usually have a light that I'm usually fixated to, that I'm constantly going back and forth looking at while I'm watching you. And if I see that light turn yellow, then it's, you know. But if the lights weren't on, that'd be tough. How do you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and they're not always consistent there. Like, there was a problem at Daytona where somebody accidentally turned the lights on and then turned them back off.
And didn't have a flag out. See, that'd throw me off right there.
Yeah. So that was frustrating again. I mean, it was near the end of stage 2, and we knew how the night would, eventually end. So it really didn't affect our track position. It was just frustrating that happened. And I heard Johnny right on my right rear just drop a gear from third to second and go, and that was my sign. My spotter still had not actually said, "Oh, wait a second, it is still green." I knew to go because of Johnny going. So that was I lost my cool a little bit then. But Joe, according to Joe, I guess it wasn't that bad compared to what he's heard.
Okay.
But I usually never get frustrated in the race truck like that or race car. But so that'll happen. That's not the first time that's happened. It's amazing he didn't hit the wall, Tyler.
Yeah.
I don't know. He spun in probably 20 pit lanes, like not on the asphalt, on the concrete.
Yeah.
I mean, and with the gaps in the wall for the garage entrance, that's why I just assumed, even if nobody's literally on pit road, just like when Mark Martin hit the wall at Michigan, you hit the beginning of that concrete wall. I mean, it's
Almost
not
went
good.
right through the car, if I remember right.
Oh yeah. So that was right before the night was kind of over. So other than that, yeah, it was a fun time. Everybody was in good spirits. Joe was really happy right away. He mentioned going to Iowa this week, and we wanted to, but obviously logistically, even with things we got going on back home with our own stuff, and we kind of figured, hey, we're gonna try to save up here, and instead of doing 3 or 4 races where we don't have enough tires, we're going to try to go do 2 where we can compete for easily a top 10, because their trucks definitely have that speed for sure.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah, his equipment is nice. I know that. It did look good, having that Street Store's logo on a truck
Oh
too.
yeah,
That was nice.
yeah,
It's nice.
yeah. No, it was fun getting that right up around the top 15. But yeah, that was pretty much our Texas weekend.
Where you looking to go next in the trucks?
So far, we're thinking about working with Nemco for maybe Kentucky, but most likely Pocono for sure. Like to do both. Sadly, Kentucky isn't for another month, but another mile and a half. I think it might actually be a tick smaller than a mile and a half. They go out west. They're out in Iowa right now, and then they go to Gateway. So some of it's just not exactly logistically the best thing for us. And we're still kind of sorting some things out on our own end with our trucks, and so but should be fun. I mean, Pocono is obviously our home game, so we want to have a good one there and get all the friends and family out and have a good time.
It's funny we say Pocono's our home game, but actually Dover's closer.
Dover is closer.
Yeah.
You're right. That's true. That's another thing. A lot of people have been asking about what happened at Dover. That was the beginning of May 4th, I think. We were supposed to be taking our truck to that event. That was supposed to be our second attempt after Martinsville. We had went down the week before to work with the Kozlowskis, Bob and Brian, and they were willing to help us pull down and get the truck dialed in, because we obviously had mechanical issues at Martinsville, but we were off on the setup. So and Dover's a place that you need to be on it. I mean, it's if you're not dialed in, it's not even slow. It's unsafe. So at the same time, with some of the issues we had at Tech in Martinsville, I asked some of the NASCAR officials, since we were in Charlotte, to come over and check things out. We made a lot of changes that month to be legal and up to date for NASCAR. They update things by the month, if not by the week, quite a bit, and so we wanted to make sure we wouldn't have to worry about that stuff when we got to Dover. And spent about an hour with us, and everything looked good, and kind of right as they were walking out the door almost, they kind of felt like there was something wrong with our splitter. And for those that don't know, the splitter is basically right under the rear bumper. It's almost just the front bumper.
Front bumper, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
thank
thinking,
you.
unless you're driving backwards, they ain't doing any good.
Yeah, the front bumper has got a fin under the bumper. It's like it's all plastic. It's very thick, but it's basically what keeps us glued to the racetrack. So it's not something the sport's used for a while. It's only 7 or 8 years old, I believe, at least in the truck series. And they decided that there's a 2019 one that they came out with that I think was a little thinner and had a NASCAR stamp on it. So we went on to have to buy that, and we went and bought that day, came back, and of course it didn't fit perfectly. They any time that you kind of make something that's supposed to be universal, it might, for example, fit perfectly on the Ford, but you're going to have to make some changes to the Toyota and the Chevys. So we that was 3 days before the Dover race, and we came back and went to work on trying to make it fit. I mean, kind of had to cut out the spider bars right above it, right around the radiator, and the whole splitter structure. And we almost had it done, but it got to the point to where there was a threat of rain in the forecast, and I think 4 trucks at least were going to go home. And for those of you that don't know, qualifying, when you don't have any owner's points, if qualifying gets rained out, and that'll only take 10 minutes of hard rain, you don't even get a chance. You go home automatically, and they go off of last year's owner's points. So we were allowed one withdrawal, so we were allowed to withdraw from that one. So that's basically what happened. So pretty disappointing after a whole month of preparation just for that one race, but part of it. just working out the bugs, and now our relationship with the Nemecheks are growing a little bit, so I think we'll be working with them quite a bit more in the future, and so stay tuned on those deals.
Cool. I can't wait to get in the stands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to go to Pocono. That'll be cool. But this week with NASCAR being off in the Monster Cup, we got Iowa with the trucks.
Yep, Iowa with the trucks, and I think the Xfinity cars on Sunday. So this is interesting. They do.
They postponed that race.
Yeah, well, I think they moved trucks to Friday or Saturday.
Okay,
So
they had to do something because it was nothing but a washout.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. They'll get a little more prime time. Iowa's a fun place. Should be interesting to see how the races go. I think got to give a shout out to Shane Lee and Ryan Repko. They're two friends that are. Shane Lee is making his own team's debut with Circuit City on board in the Xfinity race, and Ryan Repko I raced with in ARCA a little bit, and he's making his Xfinity debut with JD Motorsports. So keep an eye out for them. And other than that, yeah, no Cup this weekend till Sonoma next weekend.
But after that, they go to Sonoma.
Oh yeah.
Where they turn left and
right.
And right.
And right. Yes, going back to the old IndyCar circuit. They haven't ran that since, had probably, I think, late 90s, I think, is when they made the change to the new course at Sonoma, and IndyCar's not going to Sonoma anymore, so maybe that had to do with that change. I always thought the racing was better at the old circuit, so I think it'll be fun.
Speaking of tracks you turn left and right at, you got Le Mans going
Yes.
on here right now.
Yeah, currently it's 3:45 here Saturday. They started this morning at 10:30 Eastern time. So I think we got 16 hours left. Actually, just about 16. Toyota's 1 and 2. They've been really getting a hold of the LMP classes. So hopefully, I'm sure we don't have too many viewers that are always on board with the sports car circuit, but I think a lot of people know about the 24-hour races at Daytona and Le Mans. A ton of history, a huge accomplishment for everybody anybody who can conquer those races. I mean, extremely cool races to be a part of. Dale Earnhardt did it with Corvette. Jimmy Johnson did.
Is Kurt? Am I wrong? Is Kurt Busch at Le Mans this year?
I
or
think
is
he's actually there as a guest with Ganassi, so I'm not sure if he's actually driving or not. But there was talks of him maybe now that his contract will be up at the end of the year. Obviously, he's currently with Ganassi. That he might maybe be doing some sports car racing. So should be interesting. Looks like Porsche's leading the GT class. I always pay attention to GT class. I think a lot of people do because of the fact that they're the manufacturer cars still.
That is correct. I love seeing them on the track.
Yeah.
A car looks like a car that you could go purchase at the local dealership. Should you want to go to the Porsche dealership and drop
Yes.
$100,000 on a car?
Yeah. Exactly. So looks like they're leading Porsche, and I think Ferrari's in second right now, and go Corvette, they're in third. So I'm silently pulling for them. And Ford's back. They're still doing good. Looks like they're running 6th through 9th. So yeah, it's always a fun race. Encourage any of you guys to go look it up. I think you can. Sadly, it used to be on Fox. Now you have to go to the FIA WEC app and live stream it. I think the Fox covered it for a couple years and Speed did, but at the end of the day, it's extremely hard to cover a 24-hour race on an 8.5-mile track. I mean,
you'll probably see some of it tomorrow. Saturday and Sunday usually covered, I guess.
Yeah.
Somebody,
so.
ABC or NBC, somebody will cover some of the major networks, but yeah.
So, no, that's a really cool race. We got a movie coming out in November, Ford versus Ferrari. That's going to be a good one.
Starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
Oh, yeah. They're going over, pretty much covering the famous rivalry in the 60s between Ford and Ferrari at Le Mans. So that's going to be awesome. We're all going to see that. That's for sure.
I'll be there.
Heck
Me
yeah.
too.
Now, speaking of competition between movies, You were telling me on the way up here before we even got started, you had a little competition at home between the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
As to, was it more expensive to make this kind of movie or this kind of movie? So tell me about that.
Yeah.
well, Tony was arguing that the racing movies are one of the most expensive movies to make because of all the cars they crash doing it. But I was
Gotta
arguing that movies like Star Wars and Avengers, things like that, cost a lot more to make. So we were having a good back and forth argument on the way here.
Yes. His sources say, whether you believe him or not, they got to be right. But
Should you choose to believe?
yes, his sources do say that they are like double the amount of racing movies, which is surprising. Not as much for like Rush and that, where they didn't really wreck cars, but Days of Thunder, they wrecked some race cars. And Tom Cruise and Robert Duvall are not free. I mean,
Evidently, neither is Chewbacca.
Here's
yes.
Sam L. Jackson.
Or yes. Exactly. You can't. That Death Star ain't cheap either to blow up, I guess. I
There you
don't know.
go.
But
Score one for younger brother, I guess. You
yes.
got to let him win once
Oh,
in a while.
Yes, he won that one.
You
Dukes
got to let
of
him win once in a
Hazzard.
while.
Dukes of Hazzard in 2005, I think, wrecked like 103 Chargers. It's something crazy.
I
like
didn't know. I didn't even know there were that many left after the Dukes
I
of Hazzard
know.
got it. The original
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard series.
Yeah, I gotta see that. I mean, that's gets those bloopers are hours long. How many wrecks they've had, but no, yes, it's lightsabers are more expensive than tires. So, but
For
apparently.
sure.
That's. We need to put that somewhere on a sticker.
I know. Yeah. I wish it was like that in the real world, but I guess. But so yeah, so no, that should be fun. So go out, catch that movie. There's not too many racing movies, period. So when one comes along, it's like, oh, this is a blessing, as long as they don't mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the greatest racing movie of all time for you, Brian?
I think just popularity-wise, I mean, it's got to be say racing movie. I mean, is that just a car movie or actual race car movie?
That's true. That's a good debate.
Because Cannonball Runs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my heart right there. That's J.J. McClure.
Yes. Yeah.
That's Burt Reynolds, man.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
So for racing, we're racing across country illegally. That's the way I'm thinking it.
Yeah, that's real racing. Exactly. I agree.
But I'm thinking for race cars, it's always got to be Days of Thunder because it's always
Yeah.
one you can never turn off.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you are in the movie, sitting down and you come across it on one of the other
yeah.
networks, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
and I can recite almost every line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's only like 5. I'm trying to think, maybe 5 or 6 legit racing movies, if that. I mean, you have Days of Thunder, Rush. I never actually got to see the full like Stroker race. That's older.
And there was actually Le Mans with Steve McQueen.
Oh yeah, Le Mans.
I mean,
that's yeah.
which is really about Le Mans.
That is a serious racing movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Everything else is documentary, so we can't include that. But
Well, what's the best documentary?
ooh, there's Senna. Senna's pretty.
Yeah, Senna's pretty cool. That's a
Yeah.
good one. If you're a racing fan, you got to watch Senna.
You gotta watch Senna, that's for sure. I'd say that's the top of my list. That's if you don't know who Ayrton Senna is, I'm sorry, but you got a lot to learn. You have to look that up. I'm telling you.
That's exactly what he said to me when we watched the documentary because I didn't know who he was.
We were watching his quick times at Monaco and his helmet cam, and oh, just that guy could book it. It's amazing. Him and Dale Earnhardt, but
Where was he from? Brazil?
Brazil, yes, yeah. I forget where exactly.
And speaking of Formula One, I guess it was shenanigans went on during that race. I think.
Yeah, he complained about the politics in the 80s. I can't imagine what he would say today. I mean, they had, I don't know if you remember that time, they were running for the championship in the last race, and if Alain Prost didn't finish, Ayrton would win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ayrton wrecked him on the first lap, first corner. Nobody knows whether it's intentional or not. I mean, I think, Ayrton's defense, which again is you can't disagree with the guy. If you no longer go for that gap, are you a racing driver anymore?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, your wise crew chief who might not have ever been in a race car would have been like, well, you can't win on the first lap. True. So it's hard. It's hard. So, but anyhow, yeah, this weekend, if you haven't followed Formula One, I mean, Mercedes has just been straight up dominating the last couple of years, but this year they have really dominated. It's amazing what Lewis Hamilton does in that machine, and finally, Sebastian Vettel for Ferrari was leading this past weekend in Canada. Long story short, he made a mistake and went off course just a little bit, and kind of cut the corner a little bit. But when he was trying to regain control, these tires. I mean, the second you run through grass at that speed, you're not coming onto the racetrack with full grip. I mean, it's going to be a handful for a while.
I've run through cornfields at that speed, I think.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and so he was trying to regain control of his car, and then Lewis had a run and tried to get by him, and he kind of squeezed Lewis, but no contact was made, not a smidge. He didn't hit the wall, he didn't hit Lewis, and kept the lead. There was still a little bit of time left in the race, and they gave him a 5-second time penalty for, I forget. I think they used to say reckless driving. I forget what the term is now. It's unsafe driving or something like that. And he basically did not even pull into the paddock. They have all the top three there, cars pull up, and they have signs in front of each car. It says first, second, and third. So Vettel walks up without his car and moves the first place sign away from Hamilton to where his car should have been. Pretty clear what he was thinking, and he's the Dale Earnhardt at Formula One right now. And I mean, obviously, way more gentleman-like, because that's but for those guys, they get amped up over that stuff. Here in NASCAR, you have to dump somebody at Bristol to get people.
I'm thinking, I guess it leaves the pass. Earnhardt's passing the grass out.
Yes.
Yeah, he'd have been penalized for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I'm glad we don't have some of the same rules in our sport.
Exactly.
As much as I like watching Formula One, just because I think for me it's the engineering of the cars is just phenomenal.
You can't let the officiating outcome the outcome or
affect the outcome.
I
got what you're saying.
That's what Parker Clearman was saying earlier this week. The best officiating there is if you can't notice it. And really it was pretty obvious that there's nothing that intentional that Vettel did. And for crying out loud, even if he was blocking a little bit, can you blame the guy? It's racing. Why do you? There are people in Formula One right now that are literally calling out the FIA for Mercedes biased. Like, that's how far it's gotten. People are actually thinking that there's a bias to help Mercedes win, which I wouldn't believe, but it is just ridiculous to be that involved. I mean, we have our own issues. NASCAR is not perfect. There's not very many times where NASCAR gets involved. I think this week, back in '91, when I don't know if you remember, Ricky Rudd dumped Davey Allison coming to the checkered flag, and they just showed Ricky the black flag, penalized him, and gave Davey the win. That was the last time.
Okay.
So they and then Ricky went on to say and give Davey the Whiner Award. But it's a weird deal. I mean, it is hard because how can you penalize Ricky for that and then some of the things that Dale Earnhardt did? It's tough. I think the only thing people want is at least consistency. So it's hard, but you don't want to see people just blatantly taking others out. I mean, you gotta, I don't know, try to hide it. I don't know. I got
your
loose.
best.
Yeah, and that's back to the local open wheel stuff. That's what happened at Williams Grove last night. A friend of ours, Steve Buckwater, was winning the Silver Crown race last night here at Williams Grove, and with 1 lap to go, going into turn 1, just flat out got dumped. Chris Windham, and like. He said that he lost his brakes. I don't know. You hear that all the time, and it's just funny how you lose them for that corner, but you were fine going back into 3, and you were fine pulling into the pits in the 18 laps before that. But if that happened at Martinsville in the Cup Series, that's one thing, but to do it in anything open wheel, I don't know.
Did happen at Martinsville with Elliott and Hamlin. That was a crazy race.
That's a whole controversy in itself.
But again, open wheels, I mean, they flip so easy.
Yeah.
You're touching, that's why, we're looking at an IndyCar die-cast right now, and that's why these things are on there.
Exactly.
To keep one car from running up on another car's open wheels.
Yeah. It's extremely...
Too many drivers up in the air,
Yeah. I'm amazed that he did it. He didn't win even, so it's kind of like Denny Hamlin there in 16 with Chase. He moved Chase, wrecked him, and it was Kyle Busch went on to win anyhow. So you got to do it right. You can't do it with 3 to go. That's way too early, and you better, if you hit them hard enough to wreck them and you don't move them, usually that's not, you hit them too hard and it's going to hurt you too much, and third place is probably going to get you. So definitely a strategy to that. And again, I get it. I mean, that's something that's planned in stock car racing. I mean, if you're in that position, people are going to be upset with you if you don't at least try something. But in open wheel racing, I don't know. That's a little much. It was hard. It was a really one-lane track last night, and so just everybody follow the leader on the bottom. So you do kind of feel handicapped in that sense, and so you're trying to do anything you can for your guys. But
well, do me a favor. Let's learn how to win races before we learn how to crash people.
yes, exactly. I know. I won't plan on that. I'll focus on other things.
We'll just let that come naturally as part of the program.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to get people a little loose, apparently too much last week. I get too close to people in 3 and 4 on the bumper and pin them down a little bit on the right rear.
Well, you're learning. I mean,
yeah.
And that's why Joe was such a good mentor for you, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's tough because it's like, well, they did that to me the last, 3 laps ago. They got me sideways, but you got to watch doing that, because when you get somebody that's on your left underneath you loose, they're most likely going to go up the racetrack into you. So don't want to take yourself out by racing somebody that hard early in a race. But so that's pretty much what we have going on here, and just getting ready for the next couple races. Have some dirt races coming up. Speaking of Williams Grove, might be back in a legend car. I got to get back in at Lincoln about a month ago or so, and Central PA Legends, they're doing great. They have almost an average of like 40 cars a weekend, I think. I mean, and only 24 make the feature. Lincoln and Susquehanna Speedway, BAP Speedway, was nice enough to extend the field up to 28 for those guys. So that's cool, because you were going to some races where 46, 48 cars are showing up. Half the people there are going home. So when we went there Memorial Day weekend, it was pretty cool. We did make the feature, so that was nice. Out of, I think, 48 showed up, so we got in the top 28, and I think we were starting like 22nd or something like that. And there was a big pile up early in the race, and we got forced into it pretty much, but still a fun time. Cars fixed already, so we're getting ready to go back here in a couple weeks, so that should be pretty fun.
Speaking of having fun in cars, we got to race each other a couple weeks ago, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, we did some high-tech go-kart racing.
Oh, yeah. High-tech go-kart.
Yeah. I think producer Nick over there has some footage of that. You should try to get that up on the podcast.
Yeah,
Put some of that out.
For sure. I will. I think the footage is going to show that you rammed Tony into the wall.
I did put Tony in the wall a couple times.
Yes. We're gonna make
it's my only recourse. I have no defense. You put a 220-pound guy in one of them little cars, a little top heavy.
That was great. That was if I learned Rubbins racing anywhere, that was it. I wish Dad could have been there. I wish we could have had everybody there. So if you're ever wondering what this stuff's like, do not compare it to driving down 283 in your car. It's even better if you get in a go-kart, even if it's a little bit slower, and taking some corners like them things do. I wish we could do the GoPro Motorplex down in Charlotte. Those things boogie. I mean, they're 80 mile an hour go-karts outside. It's, full-blown track, and they're pretty cool. But I gotta say, yeah, Tristan and I, my brother, we're battling hard for lap times all day, and it's funny. We ran 3 or 4 times, and you realize the difference in the carts, because you get out and they let the ones cool down, and then you go back out in different ones. We're trying to get a couple more minutes just to tweak on them a little bit. I mean, the different rubber temperatures and stuff like that. I'll never forget that, learning that. I mean, my first race, obviously it's just go-karts, but still, your first race, car felt great. Second one, it would not turn for anything. It's a dump truck. And third race, it was great again. It was awesome.
I couldn't turn anything. I hit it. If there'd have been a pit car out there, I'd have hit it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tristan and Tony, it seemed like every time they got out of the car, they were right away trying to figure out how they do better next race. But Brian was just having a good old time.
Yes, we need your mentality. we ruined it for ourselves being way too competitive.
Took it too seriously.
Yeah, and then Tristan's girlfriend just comes out of nowhere and puts a time on
she was fast. Yeah.
It's like, what? This guy's she's too light. We should have put lead in that thing, made sure it was even. But nah, it's interesting. Some races, Tristan and I, we change our strategy. We'd go slower, and we think it'd make it faster, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So, we're addicted to this stuff when we turn go-karts into a science like that. That's sad, but it's fun.
I probably got the most flags, though.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I had the extra let these people buy flag. Is that a blue with an orange stripe on
Yes,
it? Yeah, I had that flag about
we were making
a couple times every race. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh, yeah, and then there was this, at the last race, there was this guy that he raced there, 260 times, we found out? I call him a hacker. I'm sorry.
I think I booted him, too.
Yeah.
I think so.
Comes out with a fancy helmet, just a go-kart, and we were like, uh-oh. He was fast. I'll give it to him. 260 races, though. We were within a couple tenths of him.
Now, I tell you what, after that race, I was beat.
Yeah.
After doing that, I was worn out. My shoulders hurt. My back. I was just beat.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what you guys go through in that truck or cup car or Xfinity car.
Yeah.
Especially at Texas when it was like 90 degrees in it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm glad we didn't race Sunday because it was like 95 then. But it was, oh, my gosh, I wish I encourage more people to go do that. And, like, that, well, again, I don't like to call him a hacker, but I would love to send friends out to those racetracks and keep that guy there just to see, okay, they get tired, but if there's nobody out there really better than them, they think they're doing it really well. You put a guy like that on the racetrack while they're racing and they see, man, I'm wore out, and yet this guy's somehow still going faster. That's what you have to – it's very hard to tell people. And we had all the room in the world in those go-karts. Just imagine being under that much pressure and you really can't move at all. Your neck, everything's tied down. The temperature's crazy. You're in there, we were doing 14, 15-lap races, The 200-mile races are just what's crazy. And I remember we had a GoPro. I think it was one of the first ARCA races, just for a couple laps in practice. And a couple of people came up to me watching it and were like, "Wow, your hands move a lot." Yeah, they do. Like some people must. I don't know. I guess they think that it's as simple as 283.
Like driving the Cadillac down, on 283. Yeah.
When people joke about turning left, apparently they really think you turn it to 9 o'clock and leave it there. And then when you get out of the corner, you're back at 12
o'clock. You wish.
It
doesn't always stay there, does it?
Oh, my gosh, no. If it was like that, nobody would spin out. I guarantee you.
And just the way they set the camera in the car, just holding it straight in a straightaway is got to be tough. I mean,
turning
because
right.
The car itself naturally wants to turn left hard.
That's the biggest thing that people get thrown off. And like Nick was seeing it here the other night, a little simulator here. You're turning 1:30, 2 o'clock to the right on the straightaways. And then you go into the corner and you think, and that's what's funny is everybody says you turn left. You do at some points in the corner. I mean, you're really kind of wrestling the thing. So you're back and forth from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock on the wheel, the whole entire corner. And at some points in the corner, you're turning right. And like people just don't. I encourage people to go look on YouTube and watch these videos. And it stinks because like people will watch that and put their hands out. Well, I can do that. Oh, it's not just about physically being able to move your body. It's controlling a car that power steering is not like your Cadillac. And, oh, by the way, your mind has to tell you when to do that. If you make that move to the right a tenth of a second later than you're supposed to, it's wall or whatever's out there. Yeah. Jamie McMurray last year did most of this is adrenaline, so this doesn't say too much, but he did 103, I think it was 103 or 105 mile like bike ride and triathlon one Saturday, and his heart rate was lower than the 2 hours he was in the car for practice. That's practice. I mean,
Wow.
You do 4 or 5 hour, 500 mile, 600 mile race. I mean, yeah, your heart rate is jacked the whole time, and a lot of people will say it's adrenaline, and that's a good point. But like you said earlier, listen to the guys on the radio. It does not sound like they're going through that much adrenaline. I mean, they're calm. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that 100%.
Which reminds me, we need to talk about your diet.
Yes, that's a big one too.
Yeah,
Stay
no fast
away
food.
from the fast food. Oh,
Well, going back to, I don't want to revert back, but to NASCAR 2003 and the simulator, I didn't have the best crew chief and spotter behind me.
yeah.
I'm in the race car, and he's over here yelling at me because I keep touching the apron every time I come down to the corner.
yes. Don't chip that apron. That'll send you. If it was real, it would have. We'd have had a lot more wrecked race cars than we did.
I wrecked in like the first lap of practice. He's like,
Yeah.
"Great, we got to go to the backup car."
I was proud. A lot of people spin off of pit road. They don't make it out onto the racetrack, so so that's good.
Except for in the race, I think it took like 3 laps to wreck, and I was like, "Can we restart?" And Tony's like, "No, you can't restart in real life. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist."
No buttons here, but
I think in a cup race, I actually saw somebody racing down the pit road to get back onto the track.
oh yeah.
Now,
Did you see Coca?
what's the rule there? Who is there? Somebody should be yelling in your ear that says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, he's ahead of you," or let
Yeah.
him go, or
It's
don't, or are they saying, "Don't let him by you"?
it's tough. I mean, there's a couple incidences. Like there used to be, if there was a wreck happening and you used pit road like as an access to get away from it, you didn't have to slow down at all, and you'd see some crazy. I think I don't know if it was Schrader or who it was in the 21 car. I think in 2005 at Daytona, went the whole way through to miss a wreck and never slowed down when he blended on back to the racetrack and came out in front of like 2 cars. I mean, it was a pretty scary incident.
That's nuts. I
Yeah,
mean,
he just thought he'd be able to stick, but when he came back out onto the flat, and then nowadays, if there's a wreck, you can fly through pit road to stay away from it, but you have to be to pit road speed by the end, by the last line on pit road.
okay.
So you do eventually have to come down to 60. But did you see All-Star qualifying? A lot of people don't know All-Star qualifying.
All-Star qualifying was different because there was no pit road speeds.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
It was like
Yep. So you do a full lap, come down pit road, full speed as hard as you can without wrecking the thing, do your 4-tire pit stop, go back out, wide open up through the gears, and finish that lap, and that's your qualifying. They're doing all these qualifying formats every week, changing it up to make it exciting. They need to do that every week.
I don't know about that,
It's
man.
like we go through tires more, but hey, they don't seem to care about that.
I'm worried about
so-
going through people more.
Yeah, they do have the. Yeah, you're right. It's a-
Tires, I can buy a lot of tires.
Yeah, that's a sketchy time. But yeah, so everything else right now, checking on the highlights again for the Lamar race. Toyota's still in the lead.
So there was a crash involving Corvette.
Oh, really? Ah, jeez.
Yeah, took out one of them.
Was it the number 3?
I don't
Garcia.
remember.
That
I
stinks.
just saw it on the internet.
Yeah.
As long as it didn't take out a Ferrari, I'm good.
Oh, Ferrari. Oh, yeah.
Ferrari guy, what you gonna
My
do?
gosh. Okay. We gotta get you the jacket. But yeah. So in other news, the Arcade Racing Series is racing tomorrow night, I think, at Madison Speedway. So it's kind of a shame they have a pretty low car count. Working on, now that NASCAR has bought them, on combining here, I believe, for next year, if not for sure for 2021. But the package is there. It's just they're struggling to field cars financially, and I think they had a meeting actually this week for the first time going over the sponsorship model, because obviously it's hard when you combine the K&N series and the Arca Menard series. You know, everybody has their own sponsors and who's going to get what. This is, I believe this is the last year, if not maybe it's next year, for Monster to be the premier sponsor. NASCAR says its new sponsorship model is going to feature multiple sponsors, but they're just going to have one name for it. So the rumor is it's just going to be the NASCAR Cup Series. So they're
sponsored by X.
Yes, exactly, for this week.
Well, like a race car.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays.
Yeah, it's like a race car nowadays. There's no permanent sponsors. I mean, Kevin Harvick obviously got lucky when Busch signed on board the car. I mean, Budweiser and Busch, but that's very few and far between. Denny Hamlin, of course, has FedEx.
Yeah, they've been a good partner for him.
But it's getting to the point where nobody's the full primary sponsor for the season anymore. So
exactly,
and that's something I think we just got to get used to. It's just going to be like that. Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard now with the model for some of the companies to afford the entire year. It's getting just the changes. I know a lot of teams in the Cup Series are kind of complaining about the Gen 7. I think we talked about that in the first episode about getting these cars closer to stock cars. And teams are complaining because really, I mean, the Gen 6 is now on its 7th year, but it's still extremely inefficient for the teams to build all these race cars day by day, and in a year or two, you know, half of that piece is going to be obsolete. And so you there used to be a little bit of a trickle-down system where it would trickle down to the smaller series. Well, Xfinity runs different bodies now. Obviously, there's nothing for trucks that are going to be, you know, interchanged between the Cup cars and the trucks. ARCA and K&N maybe, but it used to be when there was, you know, the Busch Grand National and Cup. I mean, you could at least sell what you were building. So I know teams are complaining about those changes. They want the Gen 7 to be a more permanent fixture. So that should be interesting. Rumors are getting a little more prominent on Honda and Hyundai being in the sport. That's interesting. Just a rumor. But the Indy cars, they run the Dallara, you know, common chassis. So you buy the chassis almost, you know, from one company pretty much, and so it's a standard, very affordable. I mean, right now IndyCar is cheaper than NASCAR, at least in the Cup Series. And so there's rumors of NASCAR trying to do something like that and build a relationship to where they can have a common chassis, and yet maybe hang a body on it that is more closer to your stock car. And so that you can decipher a Ford from a Chevy, and then maybe Honda and Hyundai will want to get in it. Obviously, Honda's in IndyCar, so that's why those two rumors do kind of connect to each other. And NASCAR obviously is working with the engine package. That's the biggest thing. These companies, these OEMs can't afford the amount of costs. I mean, what they have to put into the engine program every year. I mean, let's face it. It's, you know, of course Ford is Roush Yates, but Roush Yates is its own company. I mean, it's, you know, Hendrick. You know, those are Chevy motors, but those are Hendrick motors. You know, so really it's been a while since the OEMs are really putting out their own motors anyhow. So Honda and Hyundai, they don't have a Hendrick or a Roush hookup, obviously. So they would have to be producing their motors, and they need NASCAR to find a cheaper way to do it. And we're running a 550 horsepower engine right now at the majority of the racetracks, but it's almost just a restricted engine. I mean, that engine could easily produce 850 horsepower. So obviously that's not the most efficient thing to be building those things and only using a percentage of the horsepower it could make.
And, you know, I'd like to see some more cars out there too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it would also open up new windows for young drivers such as yourself. Because now there's you'd have factory bearing, factory sponsorship available for everybody from 3-4 other manufacturers, and that would be so big for filling up stands and things again too. I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's
exactly now it's hard as a fan to be loyal. I mean, the only thing you can be loyal to nowadays is literally the number on the door. You can't be loyal to if you were a fan of Dale 10 years ago, and you could be loyal to Budweiser. If he was out there today, now maybe Dale Earnhardt's a bad example, but everybody else, like we said earlier, they have 10 different sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to be loyal to that. Obviously, 10, 20 years ago, you could still be loyal to the manufacturer. It's hard now, being that again, I think NASCAR's done a lot better job, especially with the Camaro and the Mustang and the Camry, of how individual they do look. I mean, you can tell. You still can tell that there is a difference,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as good as it probably could be or what it was used to. So like it's hard to be loyal to a manufacturer too. So it'd be nice to get something back. I mean, if you can get more manufacturers and make these cars look more stock, that will help with the sponsorship gap that we have, where you really don't know what color your favorite car is going to even be this week. That's a bit of a gap right now. And so yeah, I mean it helps all of us from a financial standpoint when more manufacturers are involved. And when I say involved, I mean actually involved in the sport.
Exactly.
They don't just have teams running their logos. Like they are putting they are investing in the sport. They are trying to be better in competition for advertisement and for bragging rights. That's what IMSA and a lot of these road racing series have right now. Corvette wants to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans this weekend. It's even if it's a bragging right, and it's as cliche as that might be, it's something that these manufacturers, especially in NASCAR, used to work really hard for. It was always a battle between Chevrolet and Ford, and you still had your Buicks and your Oldsmobiles and your Pontiac and Dodges. Whereas now we just don't have that. And when you have more manufacturers, it's almost like a replacement for a sponsor, because they're trying to put cars in victory lane, and that's somebody else looking for drivers.
They want the best talent for those cars.
Exactly. So that's, again, yeah. Obviously, from my point, I would love that.
Of course, I'd like to see it too.
Yeah, more opportunities to get noticed and just give more drivers a chance. So hopefully something good comes out of that. We won't know here probably for another 9 months or so, as we get closer to 2021, and see what they come out with for the next decade of the sport. But
any closing statements here as we wrap it up?
Closing statements. Well, we'll keep you guys in touch. We're gonna try to do the next podcast here sooner. It was tough with the loss in Dover. It didn't have too much good to talk about. We were really hard at work on making something else happen. So Texas was a blessing. So here we are, just like after Martinsville, kind of enjoying it a little bit and looking to the next one. So we'll keep you guys in the loop. We're going to try to get some guests on here this summer also, and have more feedback on what other people see in the sport. There's a couple guys here in the Pennsylvania racing world that are going to come aboard and kind of speak from their point of view and their different backgrounds. A couple guys that have been in the sport for an extremely long time. So excited to make those announcements, and hope you guys are enjoying it. We're going to try to do this more often and hopefully be on your news feed, more and more often, and have some good news along with it.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for watching 50 Laps My Way. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you want to see some more good content.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.